One engine in particular adores the peace and quiet that the countryside has to offer, and that is Murdoch. The friendly giant cherishes his time in the most peaceful of places along the railway. "It's what helps me get through the day," he would say quietly to himself. One day, Murdoch was brought to a halt by a red signal in the middle of the countryside. The only sound to be heard were the birds singing in the trees. Murdoch smiled and sighed contentedly. His peace was severely disturbed by a loud buzzing sound from above. "Those beasts sound a wee bit angry," muttered Murdoch. The driver laughed. "That's not a swarm, it's Harold the helicopter. Look!" Murdoch looked up. Sure enough, there was Harold. He was hovering above some trees near the line. The noise was deafening. Murdoch was most upset. His sadness soon turned to anger. He was stuck at the red signal, and Harold seemed to be lingering above on purpose. "Will you buzz off?" cried Murdoch. "You're ruining my peace and quiet, for goodness sake." Harold took no notice. It was only a few minutes before the signal changed, but to Murdoch it felt like an eternity. He huffed crossly away. Unbeknownst to Murdoch, behind the trees there had been a road accident, and Harold was attempting to find a safe place to land. The next day, Murdoch was hauling a long goods train to the mainland. As he passed through the mountain landscape, the silence was shattered by the droning noise of Harold once again. "That noisy helicopter is determined to deny me any moment of peace," huffed Murdoch. "I can't cope with this." Murdoch thundered along, whistling furiously. Harold flew out of sight. He was in a great hurry. That evening, Murdoch sought validation from the other big engines. "Disgraceful," grunted Gordon. "Disgusting," put in James. "Despicable," finished Henry. "Harold ruins the tranquility of the forest when he flies around. He frightens the wildlife away. He calls the railway slow and out of date. Oh, I see. Noisy and a loudmouth too." Percy had had quite enough of this. "You leave Harold alone," he snorted crossly. "He disturbs the peace." "Aye, exactly. How can I have my all-important quiet time to myself when he's constantly buzzing around?" "He doesn't know you need that," explained Percy. "And besides, he can't help but make noise. He's a helicopter after all. We make noise too, you know, but you probably don't notice that anymore." "Oh, he's becoming a nuisance," grumbled Murdoch. "I'm disappointed in you, Murdoch. You really are becoming one of the bigger engines now." Murdoch was taken aback by that remark. "Harold is the bravest and most selfless friend I have. Today, he rescued a mountaineer who was injured while rambling near the Skarloey Railway, and yesterday he flew a lady to hospital after a serious road accident." The big engines lost their voices. Murdoch felt very ashamed and was deep in thought for the rest of the night. A short time later, Percy was hurrying along with empty vans for Thomas's branch line. As he steamed through a snowy embankment, he noticed something ahead. "There's a drift on the line!" he shouted. His driver applied the brakes, but it was too late. Percy ploughed into the snowdrift and derailed across the other line. "Ow!" he winced. "That was a rough hit." The driver and fireman weren't hurt, but now they were both very worried. "You've blocked both lines," said the driver. "We'll have to hurry in order to warn traffic in both directions." Before they could react, the air was filled with the sound of an approaching engine. "It's a train! It's Murdoch!" shrieked Percy. It was Murdoch. He was racing along, making light work of a heavy coal train. "What do we do?" Percy cried. At that moment, Harold flew onto the scene. He could see everything from above. "Good grief!" exclaimed Harold. "Our comrade is in terrible danger. Captain, we must act fast." His pilot agreed. Harold swooped low. Shielding Percy, he hovered in front, just above the rails, and stood firm. Murdoch rounded the bend. He saw the danger. "Stop!" cried Harold. With much noise and feeling a great force of air against him, braking hard, the mighty engine came to a halt just feet away from the helicopter. Within seconds, Harold lifted off and flew onwards for help, leaving Murdoch and Percy in silence. Murdoch still longs for his peace and quiet. He enjoys his long journeys through the countryside, but he is his happiest amongst the serenity of the island's landscape. But should Harold the helicopter buzz into view and be heard for miles around, Murdoch knows it isn't deliberate, but Harold doing what he does best. Murdoch now considers the noise a small price to pay when someone is in urgent need of Harold's help.